Hariom. I'm a bit out of breath. Just run down in the house because I forgot my phone. I'm getting the connection through the phone. I hope you can hear me, everybody.
Yes.
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 Yes, yes.
As usual, I will ask, please turn off your camera and just turn it on if you talk, because it doesn't use the information in that way. Just also quick peek whether all are muted. That's what I'm going to do. Everybody is muted now. So if you want to talk, you have to turn on the microphone and the camera. Okay, there we are. Is there anybody who wants to come in? Please come in.
I have one question, Werner.
Hello, Sandra.
Hello. And it's not a question about enlightenment.
No?
Because tomorrow is Guru Purnima. I wanted to ask you if you can talk about that event, Guru Purnima, how it came to happen and what it means. And also maybe if you can talk about the relation between teacher and student and how the Guru is important for us or not.
Okay. Well, to the first question, I haven't a clue. I don't know how it came into being that the Guru Purnima started to be celebrated. It is just now the Indian tradition that once a year, one full moon is dedicated to the Guru, and it's celebrated in many places where there are teachers with disciples. It's usually at that time they are reading things like Dakshinamurti Stotra, the teaching in silence, but expressed in words, by the Guru of the Gurus, Dakshinamurti, the form of Shiva. And actually, I better come to the second part of the question, because it's just one of the many, many Hindu celebrations that are there. Once they are tradition, they are simply being celebrated without people thinking big what it is all about. Now, the importance of Guru and Shishya, the Guru and the disciple. Many in the Indian tradition say it's absolutely necessary that you have your external Guru. But then traditions, they usually have very strict statements about many things. The ultimate Guru is your own self. You are that which you are looking for in a Guru. You are that the Guru is representing. Now, if you meet such a being who is really totally rooted into that, then that's a great benefit. But this is not something one can artificially produce. It's not something that you can just decide, okay, now I'm going to get the Guru and look around and get the Guru. You may find all kinds of teachers, but a real Guru is not so easily attainable on the market. And even if you find a real guru, the guru's job is to somehow catch your attention and always bring it back to you. Say, hey, come on, it's already there, it's in you. It's not something that I have and you don't have. Simply the guru may be conscious of it and you are not conscious of it. But the guru's job is always to help the disciple to bring the attention back to the self in one way or another. With all their crazy games that they are playing, if you are in such a close relationship with a real guru, that's a great help. But it has to happen. It's not something you can produce. You can open your heart, invite it that it may happen, but you cannot really do it. So don't go around guru hunting. Don't go around desperately trying to find a guru. Just connect with that inner guru, with your own self, as good as you can. And if in your story it should happen that you have that external relationship, it will happen by itself. The guru will come and grab you, whether you like it or not. I can say from my story, this was absolutely essential that I met Amma. Without having had that contact, I would certainly not now be sitting here and talking. But that's my story, and it's true for me, and I cannot say this is true for everybody. Before I came to Amma, I had a whole line of teachers. I used to project into them all kind of big things. And eventually I came to the conclusion maybe they have their own stuff to work out, but still, because of the sincerity, of the longing for reality, I used to get from those teachers what I needed at that time. And then somehow the circumstances arranged themselves. That I had to move on, that I simply moved on. So if there is a teacher nearby, people come and tell you, oh, you have to go there, it's absolutely fantastic, and the power and the experience. If you don't feel a resonance, if you don't feel like going there, then listen to your feeling. Don't think that you're missing something. But if you feel in your heart attracted, you can go, and maybe it's a teacher, it's a landmark that you meet on the way. You get what you need at the time, and then you move on. But then eventually it may happen that you meet a guru that helps you to come to a point where you are not more looking for a guru, where you still learn, where you learn all the time from everybody, from everything, but that running after somebody who could tell you or who could help you or could get you somewhere, that goes away. The guru's job is to help the disciple to come to freedom and not to make them dependent on themselves. There's not more here, Sandra. Maybe.
No, I'm here. I just lost the last phrase you said. My connection is not very good. That's why I removed the camera.
Yeah. Mine also just informed me that it's unstable, but yes. I'm still here so far. Yeah, I just asked whether your question is answered.
Yes. Thank you very much, Werner. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else who would like to come in?
Hi, good day, Werner. It's Udi.
Hello, Udi. Hello.
I'm doing okay, and I hope that you are doing also the same. But
I'm quite fine, thank you.
one second. And I have a question that is coming after the previous one, and it's starting from some recognition in myself that I speak in two different languages. One, the outer one, and one is the inner one. About the outer, I would say that it's rough, it's judgmental, it's more unpleasant to me than the inner one, which is more soft and more quiet and more gentle to me. And the connection to the previous question is that I had the feeling that your talk, at least for myself, is like I hearing my inner language that you are speaking outside. Do you know this contradiction between inner and outer language?
Yes. I haven't heard everything at the end. I don't know whether it's in your side or my side that the connection was a bit too unstable, but I got the drift. So there are these two voices, the outer one, the usual day-to-day personality with all its habits and reactions to everybody and everything. But there is that inner one who is basically unconcerned, at ease, at peace. Right. I was busy with that contradiction all the time for a long time. But the old habitual me personality would always come in and pull the attention into the usual habitual way of being, of acting, especially of reacting to what is going on around. But then eventually that contradiction disappeared. There are actually never two beings there. There are never two me's really. There's just the habit, how we are perceiving ourselves. And as long as we are not questioning that, then we keep on recreating that all the time, day in and day out. Me, the personality. And once that is established in our mind, then everything is being fed into that. It goes around that all the time. Me, I, me, mine, the whole day long. And then from there, all the actions and reactions are there. But the I sense in that created personality is actually just a reflection from you, what you really are. You are not who, you are that being that makes the whole experience possible. And you, as a divine being, you are not concerned, you are not reacting, you are not emotionally involved in that whole story. You just accept that as long as you are appearing, that as long as you are manifesting in this world, you're playing that role of that personality. And once that identification goes, then also the conflict between the two goes. Now, you understood that you are not that personality and you detach, and there you start to perceive yourself in a different way. But then the old habit is there, and the two come and push and pull sometimes. But as long, if you keep on being aware of it, then you just, as good as you can, let go of that identification with the external Udi personality. You play your role in Israel as a doctor. You do what you have to do. But at the same time, you do that like an actor is playing a role on the stage. without identifying. And the more you can do that, the more you become aware there is their aspect of you that is absolutely not affected by any of this, by any of what's going on. And then the old habitual reactions that we don't like, they start to fade away all by themselves.
But the feeling of struggling, that as if I'm struggling with the outer noises, with the outer things that happen, even though that I listen to my inner voice, create with me this confliction, this fighting with that, a feeling of I would say that as if I'm standing in one place, that my hope to speak my inner voice is not coming possible.
Because you get identified with the habitual reaction to the outer things. I mean, that doesn't mean you have now to do the opposite and always say everything is so nice and beautiful and pleasant. Not here, not in this world. Sometimes it's pleasant, sometimes it's unpleasant. Sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it's ugly. And a lot of stuff that happens in this world is not beautiful. It's not wonderful. But you can become aware that there is that aspect that is not affected by it, that is aware of what's happening. At the same time, you're totally unattached, unconcerned, and getting richer for the experience, no matter whether it's beautiful or ugly. And then that compulsion to react to the circumstances is reducing. And then you have the freedom to decide. Sometimes you may decide, okay, but here it's totally appropriate that I'm reacting, that I'm saying, no, that's not possible. Not like this, that you bang on the table and say no, but the compulsion that is there in the personality, that we are doing things out of habit, helplessly, that is disappearing. And now you feel a bit of conflict because the old habit will take over, but just keep on when the conflict is there. Instead then on dwelling on the circumstances, on the situation that brought it about, just become aware, oh, there is that conflict, and focus on that and see what that conflict is doing to your experience right now. See how it is affecting your body, your energies, and learn to relax. And the more you can relax, the more you become aware, right, there is that I that is not affected. The more you get rooted in that, the less this conflict is happening.
I accept it. I agree for everything, but still I have the feeling, when I visit India, not artificially, but truly, all my old story are not important. My story is not important there. As if I'm coming to a place that I don't need to bring my story in.
Yeah.
But down here in Israel, in my daily life, even though that I'm not bringing my story, it's there. It's there. It's known by other. And as if I'm not fighting in myself, but I'm fighting also on the knowledge of other people that would say, well, you're not you. You're not a story.
Right. Of course, the story is there. And it's true, when you go out, it's easier to see the story a bit from the distance, and then you come back into the habitual circumstances and it's waiting there like tigers to jump on you. And the expectation of other people that you behave in a certain way makes it more difficult to detach. nevertheless, if you remind yourself to watch it, not to struggle with it, to watch it and to detach from it and to identify with that silent, that unmovable part of yourself, then also in your old habitual circumstances, it has less and less and less power. And people start also to adjust that something is shifting in you, even if they are not aware quite that they are doing that. But if you are more and more firm in yourself, then also you're radiating something different and people start to react on it. And then they stop desperately trying to pull you into your old role again. That doesn't mean that you should not more play your role. You play your role, you do your job, you are in your family, you have your relatives, and they all have a certain memory and story with you, but you can become aware you do that playfully. It's a role that I'm playing in this crazy theater of this world for some time in order to gain experience, in order to learn, to grow, and to outgrow that whole stuff.
Thank you so much for these precious words.
And as long as we, I mean, the habit is there. We can decide not to do that, but the habit has its own power, has its own momentum. And there is a period where we have to take the little trouble to just remind ourselves again and again and again to come back and root in that silent part, in that unmovable part. And the habit will pull you out again, and then you come back again, and the habit will pull you out again, and you come back again. That's the job you have to do. But if you keep on doing that, then gradually it's getting easier, and you may have periods where it's coming spontaneously, effortlessly, and then it may take over again. But if you keep going, the day may come where your attention is diving into that so deeply that you simply don't lose it anymore. Just
Thank
keep going, Odi.
Thank you so much for these precious words.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Okay. Oops. Oh, am I back? I think so.
You have been here the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it stopped for a moment.
No, I can see you the whole time, and also here.
Oh, okay. Do you want to say something, or you just
Yes, why not?
told me that?
Hi,
Since you are already here.
Yeah, now yeah, it's Kirsten from Copenhagen. Yeah, it's
Hello,
like
Kirsten.
hi, good to see you. I always have these questions about fear. I think it's
Always.
a theme of my life. Yeah. And what I have been wondering about is that the last half year, one time in Tiru, when I had a broken tooth, and then some months ago I hurt my eye very badly. And in both situations, I experienced this out of dimension fear. And in a way, at some point, I could work with the fear. but it came to a place, especially when I went for treatment, that it was like the fear was overtaking me. And I felt that it was ridiculous compared to it was just a tease. Or it was, okay, with the eye, it was a little more serious. But I feel there's something behind this fear. Fear of dying, fear of the body is decaying, it's not permanent. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that kind of fear and how to use it. I feel it's an invitation, but it's like, I'm not really, I'm not getting it.
Basically, all the fears, they are somehow connected to that basic fear that is there around the globe in people, fear of death. I mean, as you say, when you have to pull out a tooth or repair a tooth, it's not such a big deal, but if somehow this connects you with that fear of impermanence, fear of dying, then it can become bigger and bigger out of proportion. Who is afraid of dying? We think, I am this person, I have this body, and my life is dependent that this body is okay. And if this body is not more okay, I'm not okay. And if this body dies, then what? It's that fear of the unknown, fear that the way I'm defining myself, maybe one day it just stops to exist, and then what? And as long as that identification is so total with that me, I person, then somewhere that fear is always lingering. Sometimes it's forgotten, but it's there and ready to pounce whenever there is a situation like what you described. Then even something that is not life-threatening may bring it up. Don't fight that fear. Simply become aware. It's the fear of the person. It's not coming from yourself, because you, deep down, you know perfectly well you cannot possibly die. It's just absolutely not possible. It's simply that this role that I'm playing here one day is over. And as long as our whole life experience and everything is so totally locked into that, then is the fear. Hey, one day it's gone, and then what? The fear of the unknown. Now just try, when the fear comes, try to accept the fear instead of fighting it. But try not to get completely overwhelmed, but just watch the fear, what it is doing to you. See how it is influencing your experience right now. See what it is doing to your body, how you have the tendency physically to get all cramped up. See what it is doing to you energetically. And when you can observe it like this, already the very fact of the observation proves you, shows you that there is a part that is not involved, an aspect of you that is not a victim of that fear. And you can learn, start to relax it. The fear gets bigger in two ways: when we just totally get overwhelmed and simply, completely get lost in that fear. On one hand, also when the fear comes and we start to fight it, then also we are feeding energy in that emotion fear, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So when you can accept, okay, fear is there, and instead of dwelling on what brought the fear about, just accept, okay, now my experience is fear. So let me just watch what this fear is, what it is doing right now. And the more you can do that, the more you can start to relax, and then the emotion, like all the emotions, they come, they stay for some time, they go away. If we don't feed them, then they are not sticking around. And the more you deal with fear like this, the less you are afraid of fear. Don't be afraid of being afraid. Learn to accept that it's an emotion that sometimes comes. It's just in the human framework. And if you are not afraid of it, then suddenly it's not that much of a big deal. Then fear comes, then you watch it, you see what it is doing, and gradually it fades away, and then it's not even that much of a bad experience. In contrary, these kind of emotions that we usually reject and say, no, 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 I don't want. The very fact that we can accept them helps us to go deeper. Because the me, I personally says no. Personality says no, no, I don't want, I don't want, I don't want. Then accepting that is already not going into your usual way of reacting. And then fear, if you use that fear just to bring the attention to the present and relaxing it, that very fear that was terrorizing you can help you to go that much deeper into yourself. And of course, dying is always a mystery. And no matter what I'm saying, it will always remain a little bit a mystery in the mind, but we can learn not more to keep up the terror that is there, especially in the Western world. The idea of dying is a terror, and one tries to push it away, one tries not to talk about it, one tries just to live as if it was not there, and deep down everybody knows one day comes and all this is over. All my possessions are gone in one moment. All my relationships on this level are cut. Everybody knows, and then we try to, oh no, 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 as if it's not existing. But then when something reminds us, then the fear comes and it's a bad experience. But if we stop doing that and accept, okay, we are here playing a role for some time, we learn here, we grow, and then after some time we get out of it. And accept the whole process, then the fear of it starts to fade away. And I can promise you, dying is not a terrible thing. Dying is absolutely safe. Living in this world is dangerous, but dying is absolutely safe. I mean, if one is in a total terror and in strong emotions, that may go on for some time. But basically, for most of the people who are reasonably conscious, it's like you get out of this life and it's like, waking up from a nightmare. Wow, what a story. After all, what is dying? It's just change. And it's happening all the time. Every moment. That moment dies, and you're new and fresh, newly born for the new moment. And in a way, we have to learn to die all the time. And then you start to live, really, because then you are always new and fresh. But instead of that, you're holding on to what has happened in the past, holding on to so many things, and always missing the beauty and the inspiration and the bubbling joy and creativity of the present moment. And in that way, we project that of that whole life thing, oh, we hold on to, and it's terrible that one day it's over, but actually there's nothing terrible that the past moment is over. You're new and fresh, that the divinity is experiencing and expressing here, now. So learn to die every moment, and then you can be really alive. And then the fear of that simply disappears. It may still be there. Oh, what it is, what it will be about, but it won't be a terror. And when that fear is fading, then all the other fears that momentarily come, they may come, but then you see them and they have not the power to really turn you into a victim. They just come a moment, and a little bit of fear is totally necessary for survival. I mean, if you come at an abyss, that moment of not just walking on, but that moment of fear stops you. If you are at the side of an Indian road, better that you have a little bit of fear sometimes. Otherwise, you won't stop. You won't survive for a long time. That momentary fear that comes, it's not a bad experience. And actually, people like it. People seek it. If we don't resist against the fear, if we invite it, then people get a kick out of it. Why would anyone go mountain climbing? Put themselves into a situation where they are on an overhanging rock, knowing they have to be so totally careful, any mistake can be fatal. Why is that so fascinating? Because that intensity that fear can create is attractive. Why would anybody go on a roller coaster? You go, it's going up, because that fear, momentary fear, gives an intensity, and that intensity is attractive. That intensity brings juice to the life. So we can learn to deal with the whole life story like this. That, okay, at a certain moment, fear comes, and instead of fighting it, you invite it, you deal with it, you even use it to go deeper, and then you let it go, and then it's not a bad experience.
Mm.
You have to stop to be afraid of being afraid, afraid of the fear. And then it's just an emotion that comes, that goes. And so as long as we are appearing here in the human world, in a human form, this whole range of emotions are there as a possibility. But if we are not getting overwhelmed and victim of the emotions, but put them on the level where they belong, then they are not a problem. Actually, they are enriching this human experience, moment by moment. And then we don't have to have that baggage of that bag full of bad emotions. I don't want them, and good emotions, I want them. But let the emotions come, deal with them, and let them go as they come and go. Do you have anything to add, or is that okay?
Yeah, I was thinking when you were talking about this with things in life that are coming and going, and I was just, it just reminded me that I was experiencing some big losses on personal level the last years, maybe the last 10 years actually. And I feel that has passed in a very integrated way. And maybe that's why the fear gets so irrational over, I mean, things that I might consider minor now. It's like it's pulling the carpet. In a way, it's like when the big things couldn't do it, then let's do it with the two. So something like that. It's like, yeah, I'm just a little puzzled about the unproportional fact about it, and maybe and maybe it's like maybe I'm at a point where there's some breakthrough, so the fear is getting so much more intense, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It
Because
kind of-
also, I asked you also about fear when I was in Tiru, and
Yeah.
I have also have this experience when I'm meditating that I'm coming into this void where there's a huge fear that's kind of grabbing me there. So
Yeah.
I feel this is connected.
Yes,
I
it's
mean,
all
of
connected.
course, fear is fear.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you said you had some great losses, and there it didn't really do the same intense thing. But what can happen in such a situation is that somehow we are a little bit shutting down in order to protect.
Yeah.
And then gradually you let it go again, and then maybe any silly little thing can trigger it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Werner.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? There is a young man from Argentina. He said he is not sure whether he can make it because I think it's 3 o'clock in the morning there. But he asked me a question and it goes in the same line. Actually, I have already basically answered his question. He has asked, how are we going to deal with our tendencies? And he mentioned fear and anger, and he mentioned another emotion, but anyhow, the emotional reactions, the emotional tendencies. And basically everything that I just said about fear is applying to the other things too. If we find in our character a strong tendency to get emotional in one way or another and overwhelming emotional that it becomes destructive and always creates suffering again and again, then we are well advised to do something about it. But it's not that we can just one day decide, okay, I'm not more going to react like this. I'm not more going to react with anger. I'm not more going to react with fear. If the habit is there, then the situation comes in spite of deciding, boom, there we go. But usually it's not simply that situation. If the situation is there and for a moment we get overwhelmed, at that moment, no, nothing can be done. But usually, even if the situation passes, then we linger to it. Let's say anger. There is a confrontation. There is somebody insults me. I forget myself. I'm bursting out. Okay, for a moment, we are throwing some energy out in space, but it's a moment that comes, that goes. But what is after that really draining our life energy, that the tendency is there, then after that we go home and we sit in that corner and we turn it around and turn it around in the head and keep on holding on to that emotion, holding on to that destructiveness, instead of accepting, okay, that has happened, the moment was there, it's gone, let it go. Even if the old tendencies overwhelm us for a moment, at that moment of overwhelming, nothing can be done. But after that, when we cool down and the intellect starts to function again better, then we can see, oh, I'm doing it again. And there we can start to let it go. To say, stop, come on, and shift the attention from the situation that brought the emotion about. So when in that situation of getting angry, instead of turning the situation around and justifying my perspective and my personality. I'm right, they are wrong. I'm right, they are wrong. And how can they dare? Instead of going on with that story, when we catch ourselves and see, oh, I'm doing it again, then let the anger be there, but pull the attention away from the situation and just watch your anger. Experience your anger. See what it is doing to you now. The situation is already gone long. It may be hours, it may be days, sometimes after weeks, it comes up and but at that moment, you just bring the attention to the present and see what it is doing to your experience now. See how the stomach has the tendency to get all cramped up, the legs, but there you start to relax, let go. Instead of sticking to the situation that brought about the emotion, come back to the experience of the emotion straight right here. See what it is doing and learn to relax in it. And every time you're doing that, the old tendency, the old habit is a little bit weakened. Our tendencies have become so strong, so intense, because without being aware what we are doing, we have the tendency, once the personality is somewhat formed, growing up in this world, it's forming quite quickly. And then once it's formed, many people that are formed very early, and the rest of their life is just a repetition of the same mechanisms over and over and over and over. And as long as we are doing that unconsciously, those tendencies, they get stronger and stronger. And then when you become conscious and you see what's going on, and you basically intend that you don't want to be a victim of these old tendencies, then you can start to work on it. It's not possible to just decide you want to get rid of them and then they are gone, because old habits have their own power, have their own momentum. But every time you become aware, oh, it got me again completely, and there you don't stick to it. You don't keep on that long tail of turning it round and round and round and round and round in your head, but just bring the attention directly to the experience right now of that emotion and learn to relax. And each time you are doing that, the old tendency is not strengthened, but is a bit weakened. And gradually it's getting easier and easier, and we are getting closer and closer to the moment where that overwhelming emotion was there, and eventually, even in that situation, you will be capable of seeing the emotion come, and you have the freedom whether you want to pick it up and play with it for some time, or whether you just sort of like step out of the way and let it pass like a puff of air. So Mariano, I hope your question has been answered, combining with what I just talked about, fear, to Kristen just before. And if you are not here, then I hope you will see it after that on YouTube. Okay, anybody else would like to say something? Please come in. Oleg, you have the microphone open. Do you want to talk, or is that by mistake?
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Cyril.
Ariom.
Ariom. Everything fine in France?
Yeah, it's cold and rainy, and it's not really like summer. It's Normandy, you know, it's north of France. And what about you, Vanamalai?
It has cooled down. It's quite nice right now. I mean, comparable. It's still getting to 36, 37, but it's better than 40 or more.
Yeah. Well, it's a question, but it's just something I want to share. I feel like we have, in the consciousness, we have all the humanity. We can experience all the devil, terrible aspect, and all the angel, beautiful aspect. We have all the range of the consciousness. It's just like that. And then of course we can go beyond and be in the self, and then we start to identify with one part, or even the ugly part. You know, we start to suffer and people, and we it's a role, of course, but we accept what people put you in, or then you can get free but nothing is really true, and it's all it's all there. I mean, what do you think of that?
Yes, you have the whole range of possibilities there in this human condition. But we have also the possibility to turn towards the light or towards darkness. We have every moment at least the freedom to attempt. Our old habits, our old personality may pull us against our will into things that we don't want, but you have at least the freedom to attempt to turn in the direction you want to turn. Because that is a basic right of consciousness. Some people say it's all preordained, you can do nothing, not even what you feel or what you don't feel. It's all God's will, and I agree, it's all God's will, but God's will is also that consciousness manifest has its own creativity. That possibility is there from moment to moment to turn this way or that way, at least to attempt. Sometimes we may be successful, sometimes we are not successful, but we can attempt. And even if we are not successful, if that attempt is there again and again, gradually it will get easier and manifest more. And we are well instructed to rather turn towards those kind of emotions, towards those kind of situations that help the consciousness to be expansive and not to go always after the situations and the emotions that have the tendency to contract the consciousness. Consciousness naturally is expansive if we let it happen. We don't have to make an effort. It's simply in the nature of consciousness to be expansive. And everything that contributes that we let it happen, that consciousness can be expansive, makes us happy. And everything that is forcing the consciousness to get smaller and smaller and go in that little bubble makes us unhappy. So it's there, the whole possibility is there, and out of the blue suddenly something very dark may come and boom, overwhelm. But as I have just before been talking about that, okay, that moment is maybe there, at that moment you can do nothing, but after that you become aware, oh, got me again. And then there we can stop reinforcing it and justifying ourselves and the story, but just see what's going on and turn the attention back to the present and be aware of the situation and the emotions from this perspective. And then destructive habits, destructive emotions that have the tendency to overtake again and again, then they gradually lose their power. They are still there as a possibility, but they lose their power.
Mm. Mm. Yes. What is, I mean, troubling, or there is still this little Cyril still is there, is, you know, with this little story and fear, and there is this other one with watching, and
Yes.
we take, okay, it can take the power, it can, you know, but the little one is always coming back, and oh, this is, I'm not happy, there is this, there is that, he's treat me like this, and the other one is free, say no problem, the power of the self is such that it's, but still the two are living together. They are.
Right, that's what we also talked already with Uri. So the old, the little personality is there, but it's causing a problem only as long as I identify with it.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
the moment you see it, and you know that you can just let go and you are out of it, then more and more. At that moment you can do that. As long as we don't remember, as long as we don't recognize, then we can do nothing. But when suddenly the memory comes and says, oh, look what I'm doing again. Look what's going on again. There, instead of starting to struggle, instead of beating yourself up and think, oh, I'm bad, there I'm going again, in spite of all my years of meditation. It doesn't help. Don't start to beat yourself up. Just the moment you recognize, at that moment, turn your attention 180 degrees. It may just remain a few seconds. These few seconds are very precious.
Okay.
And if you do it again and again, consequently, this collects more and more its own power, its own momentum, that gradually it becomes more and more natural. Don't, when you become aware, I'm completely again in the old victim role. Poor little me, what's happening? I'm suffering, you. Then when you become aware, don't beat yourself up, don't make a big fuss about it, but also don't postpone it. Don't think, first I'm doing this and then I'll try to get out. And then you never get out. At the moment you become aware, at that moment simply you turn your attention as good as you can and come back home to yourself, here, now, and relax into that. And then if you do that consequently, whenever you catch yourself, gradually it's getting easier. Suddenly out of the blue, unexpected, the old habit may jump in again, and there we are, and complaining, and you, and I'm a poor little fellow, and why it's happening to me all the time, and there I'm going. And then, as long as we are not aware what we are doing, we cannot do anything. But the moment you become aware, then you stop, at least for that moment. Don't waste time scolding yourself. Oh, I got me again, I'm never getting anywhere. You just stop, turn the attention, come home. The timelessness of the now, the timelessness of the present, and relax. But gradually, it's getting more and more powerful. And then even when the old habit springs in and manifests itself for a moment, you recognize, oh, I see you. I'm not giving you any power anymore.
Yeah, great.
You don't have the choice how successful you are in your attempt right now, but you can choose to attempt. And if we choose that again and again and again to attempt to bring the attention back to that, then it's getting gradually easier and easier until it becomes so totally natural that it stays.
Thank you, Werner. Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. Hariom.
Hariom.
Werner, I would like to ask you another question.
You're welcome.
About our need to feel safe. There is a tendency that we are looking for the feeling of safety, but it's obvious from time to time that we are running after that, and by that we're putting ourselves in chain instead of being free. Can you say something about that?
I'm not quite sure whether I understand the question. You wonder why are we trying to run after that feeling of safety, or what is the question?
It seems to me very, very basic in our life that we are searching for the safe thing.
Yes.
And it's a false safe. We are realize a lot that this is a sense that is not true.
Yes. We're running after that. We want that sense of safety because deep down everybody knows in my true nature I'm totally safe. Nothing can touch that. And then if we are not aware of that, if we are in the usual human experience full of dangers, then everybody knows something is not quite right. Even if they don't know why and how and where it's coming from, but the natural state is that you feel that you are totally safe, that you cannot be touched. Your body can be injured, your mind can be quite troubled, but what you are, nothing can hurt that really. And deep down, everybody knows that, and so we are looking for that. But then identifying with our story, identifying with our personality, we think I do have to make my person safe, so earn as much money as I can, and the more I have, the safer I am. Doesn't work. It may give a bit the illusion, but somewhere we always become aware, but in spite of that, this and that can happen. Trying to make your surroundings safe, knowing, but still anything can happen on that level. The feeling of safety that we are trying to create like that, as you said, is false. It gives us superficially sometimes the feeling, okay, I'm quite safe. But it cannot satisfy that longing for real safety, for invulnerability, because that's what you are. You are a divine being. Nothing can touch that. Nothing can change that. Nothing can hurt that really. But yet we have forgotten that, and we are in that human form, and then we long for safety. Why? Because we long to be natural. We long to be home in that natural state. It's natural. Everybody, even a person who has the whole life long not a single spiritual thought, that basic longing is there to be back home in that natural state. And then we are doing all this crazy thing, trying to somehow fulfill that nagging sensation of something is missing or something is unsafe. and we're trying to run after safety, doing this and that. I'm coming from a country where this is a total issue, that running after safety and ensuring more and more and more and more and hoping to feel safe after that. But then people are still afraid, don't feel safe. You can't create that artificial safety and then after that you feel safe, because something in you knows you are safe already, and you cannot feel safe if you are not connecting with that. As long as we are living the dream and think the dream is reality instead of being aware that's a dream, then we try to make the dream safer, not being aware that, hey, I'm the one who is having the dream cannot really touch me.
When the physical me trying to cross the street in India, I would look left and right in order to get safety to the other side.
Yes.
But when I'm speaking about the consciousness, the consciousness of myself, is if we are not needing to look right and left, but look forward on the truth.
Yes, but you're mixing now levels. I mean, on the practical level, you are very well advised in the Indian street to look left and right if you want to survive crossing that road. But you can do that simply because it makes sense, because it's the practical thing to do. We don't have to become somehow incapable of dealing with practical situations because of that. Look basically for the truth. On the practical level, take the situation as they come and deal with them in a reasonable way. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
I'm trying to bring this point with me, and but there is a habit to search for the right and the left, even when I'm speaking on the most deepest places of myself.
Right. That's the habit of the mind. Always arguing, and so you argue with yourself. And you can let it go on for some time, but then at a certain time you can also tell yourself, no, now, Udi, shut up. Just be. And then watch the thoughts that come out of that. And instead of immediately creating a counter argument, left and right, and just watch the thought. It comes, it's there a moment, it goes, but you are that which makes the whole story possible. You are that makes that thinking possible, that makes that argument possible, that makes the intelligence possible, that makes the whole human experience possible. Bring the attention back to that, and then the arguing left and right also calms down more and more. And many times in any situation, you just spontaneously know it's going this way or it's going that way. And if you don't know, then let the arguments come, see it from this side, see it from that side, and if you have to make a decision, then you tell them, okay, you argued now, so now I'm just going.
Thank you very much.
Manuela, you came in quickly. Did you want to come in, or was that by mistake?
No, wait. I want to.
There you are. Hello, Manuela.
Hello.
Having still nice weather in Berlin?
Yeah, it is. Very nice. So I have a question concerning to the answer you gave to Kirill's question. So my experience is that some of the emotions are so strong, let's say emotions like emotional dependencies to someone can be so strong that it doesn't work absolutely to focus inside again. So it's like really taking a drug, you know, okay, there is this drug, the drug is not good for you, but you go more for the drug instead of turning inside and being in the now. So then for me, it doesn't really work, you know. I'm more like pull to this emotional dependency, in this case to someone, instead of, or I'm not able to say, okay, I can observe, but I'm not able to say, okay, I'm turning my attention inwards. So it doesn't really work.
It's not true. It works. No, but you may not immediately see the effect of it. You may not be capable to make it work all the way through as much as you would like, but making the attempt is doing something. There is not a single effort that you do for nothing, that's in vain. There is not a single effort that is simply wasted because anyhow it doesn't work. If you attempt not to get sucked into that strong current of that emotion, that very attempt is doing something and it's accumulating its power, even if you cannot see right now the fruit of it. It's still there. It does work, and if you do it again and again and again, gradually, it may also once in a while work. And then gradually it may get easier. But strong habits, strong emotions, strong attachments, they usually take their time to work out.
Yeah, but I'm speaking, it's not really possible to turn inwards, you know. The other thing, or the pulling there, is stronger than to say, so I'm with my thoughts and everything pulling there, and then it's even not possible, even if I say, okay, now I'm going inwards, I'm turning inwards, but this other thing has so much juice still that my attention is there, and you know, and even I don't manage to go inwards.
If you don't recognize that this is happening, then of course you cannot do something. But the moment you become aware, you cannot possibly tell me that you can not at least for a moment attempt. That instead of being in the story and the emotion and the thing that pulls you there, that you cannot bring your attention for a moment to the present and just consciously breathe and relax, at least a little. And then maybe it pulls you again. But then when you become aware that, I'm completely there again, you do it again. As long as you don't recognize it, that it's happening, you're right, you cannot do anything. But the moment you become aware, I'm completely absorbed again there, at least for a moment, you can. And you think it doesn't work because you don't stay there. But that little moment, you made a break, that little moment is very, very precious. Don't dismiss that little moment. And if you do that again and again, it's accumulating its force. And then even with patience, with persistence, even the strongest of attachments and habits that keep on creating suffering and destruction in our life, they can be neutralized.
I mean, I have to say, I for myself mostly recognize it, but
Yes.
even if I recognize it, let's say there's the chocolate and you see the chocolate and you think, it's not good to eat the chocolate, and you recognize it, but still you go for the chocolate, you know? So even if the recognition is really there, it's the decision to go for the chocolate is bigger than the decision to turn inwards.
Okay, but if you are aware that pull is there, and you are doing actions that you don't want, and still the habit is so strong that you do them again, then at the same time there is that feeling, I don't really like it, I don't want it. It's not like when you are completely unconscious, then you think it's a great thing to do that. Then you are strengthening that. But then even if the habit is so strong that you are aware it's there, you're aware that you don't want, and in spite of that, it's pulling you and you still do it. But all the time there is that sense that, oh shit, oh shit, there I'm going again, and something in you doesn't like it at all. And that very aspect that doesn't like what is happening is not strengthening at least the old habit. And that very feeling of yuck gradually will help you to detach from it. And that same old habit loses its power to push you so totally against your will into stuff that you don't want. We have been building up these things to taking a long time, even if we just think of this lifetime. We may have brought quite a bag with us when we came, but even if we take of this lifetime growing up, and then until the moment comes for most of us that we really start to say stop and really become conscious of what's going on, we have been spending so much time and energy building all that stuff up. So it's not so much astonishing that after that it just doesn't want to go and has its own power. But if we sincerely go about and with patience and persistence, just at least at that moment when you become aware, don't go to some mystic insight, just bring the attention to the present, consciously breathe. Center and relax for a moment. If you do that again and again and again, it will help you to let go of the whole stuff.
Okay. I will try again and again, and I will try to relax.
Yes, and not relax. Getting all cramped up, relaxing. No, just let go. Wow.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Nelly.
I have a question about
something makes a lot of noise with you.
maybe now you hear me?
Yes.
You hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I hear better. So I think the wind was moving your microphone.
It was our fan.
Oh, it was
our
your fan.
Yes.
Oh, is it hot in Russia?
It's hot, yes. It's 30 degrees.
Oh
yes.
my God. Last 2 times before you were huddling there in a thick jacket.
It was a lot of time ago. Now it's hot, really hot.
Really hot.
Yes, under 30 degrees we have.
Oh my God. That's a lot for there, huh?
Yes. And how is in Tiro?
Oh, it's quite pleasant. It's only some 35, 36.
Okay. It's near temperatures, just like the same here and in Tiro.
Yeah.
I see.
Anyhow, you wanted to talk about something else.
Yes. I wanted to ask a question about divine being. If I understand right, we all are the same inside. So we all are divine beings, and like I understand it, that we all are equal. That we don't have any ego, any some emotions. We just radiate love and joy and all these things. And if I understand it right, we all like a common stuff or like a common cake. And if we divide it into pieces and wrap into different papers like candy wraps, that we get some personalities with different characters and different external appearance and etc. Is it right that we all are just the same space maybe or the same stuff and like something common?
Right. It's essentially, it's all one. It's all the same. All that we can see, perceive, taste, smell, touch is just an expression of that mystery of existence, that all oneness. And you are that, and he is that, and she is that, and everybody is that. So you're not really a part of that. You are that wholeness of existence. And yet, in that all oneness, there are myriads and myriads of centers of perception. And each one has its own unique beauty, its own unique flavor. We are all the same, essentially the same, and yet there is a total basic uniqueness there that is there as a being, but you are not a little part of that all oneness. You are that whole of that all oneness, and yet in that all oneness there is that center of perception that is now manifesting on earth as Nelly in Russia. It's not that you are just a part of that. You're just that uniqueness is an aspect of that all oneness that is unique. That is that being that is now projecting some aspect of itself in this world and appears as Nelly. And Nelly is just the role that you are playing here. You know, don't try too much to understand this. Don't try too much to grasp this with the intellect. This all what I'm telling, what anyone can tell, is just a pointer to the mystery of existence. The truth is that the apparent contradiction of the multiplicity and the oneness is not a contradiction. The multiplicity is a manifestation, an expression of that one basic reality. And you are basically that one divine basic reality. And yet, there is something unique in that oneness. There is a being there, but that being is not limited. It's not simply a part of that divinity. You are the whole, and yet it has its unique center of perception. In a way, you can, at least like this, you can make a bit of picture that there is that all infinity, that infinite vastness, and in that vastness, there are all these centers of perception, but they are not limited because of that. Yet they are still the infinity, and yet each center of perception has its own uniqueness, its own beauty, its own special flavor.
Okay, thank you, Werner.
We are all the same, equals, and there nobody is basically essentially better or worse, and yet each one is also has its own unique beauty, and there is absolutely no contradiction between that manifoldness and the oneness.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anyone who would like to come in? Then we can go on for a little time. Otherwise, maybe soon we'll come to a close. I understood with people usually 1.5 hours is a good time. After that, it's getting a bit difficult to keep the attention. Okay, then what I'm doing now, I'm going to turn off the recording